Chapter 3 covers table creation and management. A database table is an object, and it's the object that stores the data for the database. However, I do want to clarify something. The data in the database is stored on a storage media, probably a hard drive on a computer server somewhere on the network, and the data is stored like any other data on any other computer hard drive. It's physically scattered all over the hard disks in different places. So the database table doesn't physically store the data, it logically stores the data. You might consider that it is the tool or the object that is used to organize our data for us humans to understand and read. Okay. It consists of columns and rows. Now, sometimes you'll hear me refer to the columns as fields and the rows as records. Tables are created and modified through data definition language commands, or DDL commands. Okay. Table and column names must follow certain rules or standards. You can have a maximum of 30 characters and no blank spaces in your table names and column names. The table and column must begin with a letter, and they can contain numbers, so letters or numbers, the underscore, and the number symbol. Your table names must be unique within your schema or your user account. Column names must be unique within each table. Okay. Again, you're not going to have two tables with the same name. Within each table, you cannot have two columns with the same name. Now, we're going to learn that it is very likely that certain column names will be repeated in multiple tables. And the example that we see in that case is where you have a foreign key field or foreign key column is used to link or relate to another table in which that column name is used as the primary key. Okay. And finally, you cannot use any of the reserved words for your table names or column names. Each column or field must have a specific data type. Now, there are many more than 4 data types in Oracle databases, but these are the 4 primary data types. And rather than me read through each of these, note that this table is on pages 60 and 61 in your textbook, or if you'd like to read it here, get the specifics, simply pause your video as you read through the detailed descriptions of each of these 4 data types. Okay, remember syntax diagram. We talked about that in chapter 2, the syntax diagram. This is the syntax diagram for a create table statement. The keywords are in all uppercase, and optional items are in the square brackets. The square brackets mean that it's optional. So in this case, you don't have to precede your table name with the schema, but you can. That's an option. The table name is something that you have to provide. Remember, following those previously discussed rules: 30 characters, maximum 30 characters, letters, numbers, underscore, number symbol. The table name must begin with a letter. Okay. Your table is going to have fields or columns. So you begin your column definition with a parentheses. Okay, it's not an option. You begin your column names with a parentheses. You provide the column name, the data type, and then notice the brackets means it's default. I'm sorry, the brackets mean it's optional. So a default value is optional. What is a default value? Well, if your record is entered into the table if you're going to create a new record or insert a new record into your table, and you do not provide a value for this particular field or column, then this default value will automatically be entered by the database management system into this field for that new record. Typically, you're going to create a table with more than one column or more than one field. But again, notice the brackets. If you're going to have more than one column, then you separate the columns, the column definitions, with a comma. And then you start all over again. Column name, data type, and then if you choose, the keyword default and a default value. Okay. Now, does this comma have to come on the second line below? No, quite often that comma will come up here. But it doesn't matter. Remember, Oracle doesn't care if you put all of this stuff on one line. But for our human eyes, it's easy to read if we put each column name on a separate line. I'd put the comma down here and then start your next column name right here. Okay, defining columns. Again, the column definition list must be enclosed in parentheses. And actually, I'm going to back up a slide. I apologize for this. I'm going to back up a slide. Note that our column definition ended with a closing parentheses, and then our statement ends with the semicolon. Okay, back to the column definitions. Must be enclosed in parentheses. The data type must be specified for each column. Your table can have a maximum of 1,000 columns. Don't worry, in our exercises we're not going to come anything close to that. Here's an example of a create table command on page 64. What is a virtual column? A virtual column is a column that does not contain any actual data, or it doesn't organize any actual data. This particular column is built by taking data from the AM-SAL column, which is a fixed point decimal, 8 characters with 2 of those characters to the right of the decimal place. It's going to add the data from the AM-COM column, and then the results of that mathematical expression is displayed or used whenever this column is referenced.